I entered when I was 18, and then we had 2 years in the novitiate, as we call it, in Ireland, Castleconnell, Limerick. And then 1960 I was asked would I like to go out to the missions. Now that time I didn't know what missions were. I was too young and I wasn't really educated then, because I had just left school and done my leaving cert, which was, I suppose, O-level then, you know. So when I told my parents then that I was going off to Africa, they said, oh, you know. And then I was allowed home for 4 days to say all my goodbyes. And you know, I thought I'd never come back. When I came back, I was so upset. So then I left for Africa, and I was absolutely heartbroken after my parents, you know. And I suppose I was so young, I didn't know what I was giving up. I got the boat from Liverpool to Africa. Now we were on one of those Stena Line ships, and we had a lot of luggage. There were 3 of us. We were bringing out, starting off a convent, we were out in Africa, and we brought all the sheets and all the things, which was absolutely crazy, because it was ridiculous really, but that was what was done like in those days, you know. And we had boxes and boxes and boxes. Anyway, we left from Liverpool, and there were 2 other sisters, one who had already been there and she was going back after a holiday, and one, like myself, who was starting off, which was much older than I was, you know. She was going out to be headmistress to one of the schools. So we were 3 weeks, full weeks on the boat. And of course I was sick and lonely and crying all the way in. And they were enjoying life, like, you know, and here was I just miserable because I was so homesick. Anyway, when we got to Cape Town after the 3 weeks on the boat, the Christian brothers, the Irish Christian brothers were there, and they looked after us for 2 nights. And they gave us sandwiches then, and I thought, where are we going now? We're going to Rhodesia, but you have to go on the train, so we're giving you sandwiches for the train, because the train takes 4 or 5 days, because in those days you'd walk nearly as fast as the train. So we were on the train in the long habits, of course, and absolutely scorching. So we had no money then to buy a cup of tea. We'd spent all the money on the luggage. So I was sitting by the window and I was having a banana, and next thing, a monkey comes in the window and takes my banana. Well, you know, that nearly finished me. I said, oh my God, I want to go home. You know. Anyway, we were on the train for 3 days, and it was miserable. And then we got to Rhodesia, which it was in those days. And we were met by the sisters. A wonderful welcome. And then it started from there, like I was looking after the borders for some years. We had a huge school, it was called Nagle House. And it was a girls' school, but of course it was all white in those days. And it was Ian Smith who was the Prime Minister. We didn't have any black sisters then, because we weren't allowed to take them. It was only in the 1970s that we were allowed to take them. So we didn't have that big cultural thing, although the blacks weren't allowed to mix with the whites. When we had the staff in the school, the workers, they had to go away home in the evening. They weren't allowed to live with their wives because it was apartheid. So that was, I kind of couldn't understand that, but that was the way it was in those days. You know, then when Mugabe came in to rule, there was a war, a terrible war. It was desperate. And we were all very frightened, and some of our missions were closed then. But then after Mugabe came in, it was okay for 10 years. Everything was, you know, settling down. But then he attacked the farmers and all that went awry. Then you see, he killed a lot of the farmers. So it was horrible then, you know. But when I came back first, I got into, I was looking after visiting the old people in the parish in Dunor. and I used to visit them, and it was wonderful. At least I was able to get out and be with them and chat to them and all the rest. And then I was there for about 4 years after coming back, but they all died then one by one. So I'm finding my time just praying and taking my time, like enjoying life.